Hey everyone, Heat Boy here. I just wanted to take some time to go through the changes to Blaster as part of the balance patch. Just a quick heads up, I don't really have a script, I'm just sort of winging this, so if I ramble for a bit or I say something nonsensical, apologies in advance. But let's just dive right in. So, first things first is, like every other class, Blaster got a bunch of action delay changes that reduces the animation time for the class. Off the rip, we still have attack speed 0, and action delay doesn't increase the number of combos you can get. What this change actually does from my personal experience is it makes the skill linkage a lot more fluid, so it feels almost easier to combo quickly. That being said, like I mentioned earlier, the number of NRLs you can get off within a certain time frame is still the same as before the patch. So for most people, the ceiling will probably be around 24 to 25 NRLs within 10 seconds. So that's the change to action delay. Let's move on to the next one. The next major change that comes in is Hammer Smash. So Hammer Smash previously was a skill you would weave into your comboing, and you would also use it to debuff the boss to give you 10% FD. So Offburst, Hammer Smash no longer really does anything, and that 10% FD debuff no longer applies. Instead, it's been moved into shield training, so we will always passively have 10% FD. The other thing I mentioned is Offburst, it doesn't really do anything, and what I mean by that is you can still charge the skill, but when you release it, nothing really happens. You're not damaging the boss or anything. It's still a charge skill, so you can use it for guard on demand, and you can use it for cases like, say, canceling out of Hyper Magnum Punch. So that still all works. On burst, it does become a attack skill and brings back Smash No Reload SNRL from M3 and M4, but we'll dive into that once we start talking about the burst. The next thing that's changed is Muzzle Flash. So now they added a command lock to Muzzle Flash where you don't accidentally cast it, or you can't cast it if you weave twice. So previously, the behavior was if you press weave and while you're mid dash animation and you press weave again, you would muzzle flash onto the boss, right? With this toggled off or toggled on, you no longer do that. See, I tap weave twice and I am not deeping onto the boss. Personally, I will be command locking this skill since I don't really use muzzle flash. There's very few cases that I think you really need muzzle flash. And most of the times when I do muzzle flash in a boss, it is by accident and it's just me misinputting. If you have a strong control over your character and you can comfortably muzzle flash on command, then you should keep this toggled off. But I'd say for most players, you should command lock this, or at least like personally I will be. Next thing that has changed, let's see, Revolving Blast. So Revolving Blast is our class bind. So previously, Revolving Blast would hug onto the boss, and then you could expend bullets to extend the iFrame duration. So what they actually did is now Revolving Blast is an immediate cast, and you bind immediately, and instead they moved our iFrame into a new skill called Defensive Overdrive. I actually think this is a good change, because you typically want to be able to use your class bind immediately, and you want to separate the iframe from the class bind itself. And the big thing about this iframe is you can still cast and do damage and attack while you're in the iframe. So like, for example, I'm going to cast right now. I can still Gatling Punch, I can still Bullet Blast, I can still combo. The only downside of this is previously the Revolving Blast iframe could be extended to like, I think it was 8 seconds, but now this iframe is stuck at 3 seconds. I think overall though, this is a good change, and this iframe is going to be super useful. So now we still have 3 iframes, but now the iframe from Revolving Blast has moved over to Defensive Overdrive. We still have the iframe when you use Bullet Blast here, and we have the iframe when you use Hyper Magnum Punch on the cast. So those are the changes to the iframes. The next big things that are coming, we'll talk about Cannon Overdrive in a bit. Let's talk about Rocket Punch first. So they extended the duration of Rocket Punch, but they decreased the damage. But this is offset by the buffs to Gatling Punch and Bullet Blast. So on top on top of Gatling Punch changing to the 2-minute cooldown and Bullet Blast changing to 1-minute cooldown, these skills actually proc Rocket Punch now. So overall, it's a huge burst or a huge buff to our burst. So what I'll show you real quick here is I'm going to cast my sequence. And then when I Gatling Punch, you see we're proccing revolving or Rocket Punch on every cast. And same thing with Bullet Blast. When you release it, it procs Bullet Blast. So that's the change to Rocket Punch. Another thing to note too is previously, I just mentioned this, Gatling Punch used to be a 60-second skill. So you would use it during burst and off burst. They changed this to a 2-minute skill. So you only use this during burst. And then they changed Bullet Blast from only being used during burst or off CD if you're doing a min clear to 60 seconds. So I actually think this is a really good change because Gatling Punch realistically was actually pretty hard to get off every 60 seconds on a lot of bosses. And with Bullet Blast, because of the iFrame and the immediate cast, it's much easier to get this off every off burst consistently. Other changes here. Let's see. Oh, right here, if you look here, this is our Ascent. They technically nerfed the percentage on Vanguard Strike, but this actually is not as massive as a nerf as it seems. So previously, Vanguard Strike didn't get the 10% FD from Hammer Smash applied to it, the Hammer Smash debuff. So this change is basically just to offset the 10% FD we gained from moving that 10%. Yeah, 10%. I just fumbled. Yeah, it's to offset the increase in FD. So overall, Vanguard Strike is largely unchanged. So let's talk about actually the biggest change to Blast here, which is Cannon Overdrive. So Cannon Overdrive previously was a skill you would pop on burst, and it would make it so that your gauge would reload instantly. So this means you could spam bunker off CD while Cannon Overdrive was active. This has changed now, so the big change is they've increased the duration from 30 to 50 seconds, but they've capped the number of bunkers you can get off. So this is capped to now at 20 bunkers, and once you use all 20 bunkers, your gauge will go back to that 7-second cooldown between bunkers. The other thing, which is massive here, is they changed it so that when you use this Cannon Overdrive skill, the Hammer Smash, which previously didn't do anything, will change into Blast Hammer Smash, which is going to be part of your burst skill. And with Blast Hammer Smash, you're going to get 38 stacks of Hammer Smash that you can use during your burst. So those are the major changes that came as part of the balance patch, but we can sort of walk through exactly what this means for Blaster in terms of burst. So like I mentioned, Cannon Overdrive gives you 20 bunkers that you can use, as well as 38 Hammer Smash stacks. The major change that they also did was they let you now macro in Hammer Smash, Magnum Punch, and Double Blast together. So during burst, if you press that macro, which I have on A, it will basically cast Hammer Smash, Magnum Punch, and Double Blast for you. If I hold it down, it's literally just casting everything for me, which makes the comboing so much chiller. Real quick before we go into burst, off of burst, the combo will be exactly the same as what we previously had, minus Hammer Smash. So let me get rid of these Hammer Smash stacks real quick. Let me get rid of bunker. I guess this stays on. But essentially off burst, your combo will be 3 NRLs. 1, 2, 3, bunker. 1, 2, 3, bunker. The reason my gauge is immediately depleting is because I still have the 20 bunkers from popping burst up. Once that's gone, we'll go back into a cooldown. But let's talk a bit about the new combo for bursting. So the new combo for bursting utilizes this Hexa Hammer Smash that we have whenever we pop burst. And what that will look like now is you'll essentially want to get 2 SNRLs off. That will give you 6 bullets. Bob or weave off of it, and then bunker. And then as soon as you bunker, you can press the macro again to get 2 SNRLs off, and then rinse and repeat. So I'll do that a bit faster. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So that's the new combo that we have. So in terms of how you burst on Blaster, what we're gonna do is you're gonna pop your sequence. Oh, and for reference, the sequence, now you just put everything into a single sequence, and that's gonna be your 2-minute sequence. So what we're gonna do now is we pop that, we charge Bullet Blast, release it, that charges our gauge, we can bunker, then you Gatling Punch, charges our gauge again, bunker, and then you can do the new combo. So 1, 2, 1, 2. So let me do this real quick. Let me try and do a full rotation. I'm still a bit uncomfortable with the combo speed. So I'm gonna do this, pop the sequence, Bullet Blast, bunker, Gatling Punch, bunker again, and then 2 SNRL into a bunker. I'm still a bit iffy with this combo, but essentially you're gonna do this until you run out of hammer smash stacks. So I'm gonna keep doing it. And then now that I'm out of hammer smash, my macro goes back to NRL. So once the buff is over for hammer smash, what you're gonna do is you go back to NRL and then shoot a bunker every 3 NRLs. And then essentially Offburst, it's the same gameplay as before. You get 3 NRLs, you bunker, and then rinse and repeat, right? So that's the major change to our burst. One thing to note is I did a bit of damage testing, and it seems like doing hurricane mode, or basically holding down the new macro, smash Magma Matcha Double Blast, seems to output similar damage in a full rotation in a full 2-minute duration. The burst is anywhere from 5 to 10% FD depending how good you are at comboing, but overall what I would recommend is if you aren't the best at comboing or you don't want to put in the effort to learn the new combo, another potential option for sort of bursting is to just not even bunker during your burst and just hold down this macro. I will say a few other blasters in the blaster discord who are better at the new combo than me are doing some damage tests, so we'll get some final numbers, but off the rip from my personal testing, it doesn't seem too far off. So what that would look like here instead is you charge up, Bullet Blast here, bunker, Gatling Punch, bunker, and then you literally just hold down this macro. I'm holding down weave, but you don't have to. Like, I could just release it and it goes off, and you basically do this until you run out of hammer smash stacks. So once you run out of hammer smash stacks, you would then go to your bunker combo. So 3 NRLs, bunker, 3 NRLs, bunker. And this honestly seems like a good alternative for people who don't want to learn the new combo or aren't taking the class seriously or just don't want to bother with like a sweaty rotation. I would recommend for most people who are trying to min-max their damage during burst, they should use the new combo. But otherwise, the Hurricane seems like a solid option. But yeah, I think that's basically it for the class. In terms of other changes, can't really think of anything. So we'll end it off here. The Blaster Discord is still figuring out, you know, the different damage differences between, like, say, like holding down the macro to do your hurricane skill or doing the actual new combo, which is 2x smash no reloads into a bunker. So once we get final numbers there, I'll probably create another video comparing the different burst techniques. But yeah, appreciate everyone who stuck through the end. If you have any questions, definitely join the Blasters Discord and ask away. We're always happy to help out. But yeah, that's basically it. Appreciate everyone who watched. See you guys on the other side. Peace, peace, peace.